And showtime, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you via no contact delivery. Welcome to another episode of the 5-Minute Roundup. Look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro network. I am also a co-host of this program. I am joined this and every week by my co-host, Eric Simpson, a business improvement and transformation consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, I would ask you where you are this week, but I think we know.
I know where we all probably should be, and that's where I am. That's where you are, Rich. And I don't know, I'm just running out of wall space to scratch the next day in as we continue to live under quarantine. It's crazy.
I advise against counting, basically.
Yeah, don't get my hopes up. I get it.
Well, let's dive into our story of the week here, which comes to us from ID Agent. Now, they are the folks who are probably best known still for their dark web monitoring product. That's really kind of what brought them to the attention of the channel. They're really kind of the pioneer of that whole model of monitoring the dark web for stolen credentials. Since then, they've added a security awareness training product called Bullfish ID. And this week, they introduced a new product that they are calling Passly. And it's an identity access management product. It combines password management with multi-factor authentication and single sign-on in a integrated bundle. There's also some of that dark web technology bundled in with the package as well. You get reporting information on how many of the users in the different domains that you support show up on a dark web scan at this point. There's going to be some more dark web functionality built into the product in the future, some automated technology. So if the solution finds compromised credentials for a user you support in the future, starting within the next few months, you'll be able to automatically issue a reset to that user or maybe lock them out until they reset. There's some functionality of that sort coming along. You know, if this product sounds familiar to you, it might be because ID Agent about a year ago was acquired by Kaseya. Kaseya in 2014 acquired a company that made a product called Auth Anvil, which is an identity and access management product. And it turns out that Passly basically is Auth Anvil. When I first heard about the release of the system, I went online to authanvil.com to see how these products compared. I was immediately redirected to the Passly site. Essentially, Passly is the next generation of Auth Anvil. Current Auth Anvil users are not going to get kicked out of their system anytime soon. They have a very kind of graceful transition plan in place for the 100,000 or so people on Auth Anvil. What Kaseya has done here basically is take a product from one part of its business, move it into ID Agent. And what this does is allow ID Agent to combine it with its dark web monitoring tool, with its security awareness training solution, and create what they're calling a digital risk protection platform, an integrated basket of products that MSPs can use to safeguard their customers from a number of different threats. So it's an interesting product on its own. It's also sort of an interesting indication of where Kaseya is sort of headed, where they're looking for ways to sort of cross-pollinate their solutions, look for this holding, this brand that they own, to leverage technology from another brand that they own to maybe combine, especially in the security area, some of these products up into bundles that MSPs can sell to their customers. Ultimately, what we know that they've been looking to do for a while is drive as much attention as possible to their IT Complete platform, which is really their end-to-end platform that combines all the different products that they own. But they continue very much to do business independently with these brands that they've acquired, like Rapid Fire Tools, ID Agent, IT Glue, Spanning, etc. And now they're just looking for ways for those individual brands to leverage some of the other assets available across the company. And the most recent example of that we may even have spoken of on this show is Spanning, the cloud-to-cloud backup brand in Kaseya, taking advantage of some of that dark web monitoring functionality from ID Agent. So interesting product, interesting little indication of the strategy, the brand strategy and product strategy at Kaseya.
Yeah, I think that it's really going to accelerate adoption for ID Agent from the partner base, and it really, to me, I'm thinking about this news, And I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it from the perspective that says, in the vendor, channel vendor maturity level index that I created, I'm looking at where Kaseya is now. And when we see Kaseya begin innovating by doing these types of things, integrating, these different solutions together in this really, I think, savvy innovation strategy. I mean, that is kind of the pinnacle of maturity for a channel vendor, is when you get to that top of that pyramid. That's the innovation phase. Now they're beyond, they've got critical mass in terms of partners, they've got great technologies and solutions in there. Now they're spending their time innovating and adding more value. So that is the sign to me of a channel vendor at a very high level of maturity.
And, it's interesting. I did an interview with somebody from Kaseya about a month and a half or so ago, and he said, they're investing millions in integrations right now across the platform, and they have specifically tasked, they have required all the different brands that they own to dedicate at least 20% of R&D annually now to integrations across the platform. So they've really kind of built that strategy you're talking about into the way that they do business.
Yeah, I think we did chat briefly about that on a previous show, in terms of them, requiring an investment in innovation, which is, it is a sign of where they are and where they're positioning themselves to be.
Well, something else we talked about in an earlier episode is some of your recommendations to MSPs and other IT providers in terms of specific things that they should be doing to make their way through the coronavirus pandemic. And we touched on a few of those in an earlier episode of the show here, but your tip of the week calls attention to 4 more of those things that you think people really should be doing consistently.
Yes, and this actually, Rich, I had a whole different tip of the week ready for today's show, but I got off a call earlier today with an MSP out of Hawaii that reached out to me and wanted some advice on their business. And so through that conversation, at this point in time, I said, listen, here are the 4 things that I recommend that you focus on right now. Number 1, do everything you possibly can to keep your clients happy. That is job number 1, because where they are right now, losing 1 or 2 clients potentially because of the coronavirus situation that we're in, or having a handful of clients, ask for a reduction in billing would be detrimental to this organization. I said, number 1, job 1, if you reach out, they mentioned that they probably haven't been doing a great job of communicating with clients, through their lifetime. I said, look, now's the time to really do everything you can, pull out all the stops, reach out, touch those clients, let them know we're in this together, we'll get through it together, keep them happy. That means, meet your SLAs, right? And do what you're supposed to do, right? In other terms. The second thing I said is, listen, maximize your billing opportunities. Make sure that, there was a conversation about, some of the team wearing different hats, had a billable resource also doing sales and marketing activities, and them pulling back a little bit from billing to do more work on the business. I said, right now, focus on maximizing billing, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This is the situation we're in right now. Focus everyone on making sure you're maximizing billing, and stop trading hats for right now, but make sure that's happening. And number 3, make sure you get all of your invoices out on time. I know a lot of providers struggle with that, Rich, and it just seems to be one of those things where until you get to a certain maturity level where you can have someone be completely responsible for that kind of thing, it's tough. But the third tip, make sure you're sending your invoices out on time. And the last thing, this may sound like out of left field, I said, look, ask your existing clients for referrals. Ask them for referrals. Do you know anyone that needs help with their remote workers, with securing remote workforces and things like that? It may sound crazy, but don't ask, don't get. I heard that a million times when I was growing up in New York, and it's true. If you're not asking for referrals, it's not very often that a client, especially right now, is thinking about, hey, I got a referral for you, Eric. Of course that happens every once in a while. We love those, but be more direct about it. who else can we help in this time of need? Position it that way. Who else do you know that we can help maintain business continuity by supporting their remote workforce securely? So those are the 4 tips for today, Rich. Well, you got 4 out of 1, 4 for 1.
That's a good one. Yeah, no, I like all 4 of those. And, it's interesting. The first of those 4 in terms of keeping your customers happy was the one that really kind of resonated with me for a couple of different reasons. And one is it's pretty much guaranteed, no matter how well you run your business as an MSP, there is going to be some revenue erosion, right? So if you're billing clients on a per user basis and those clients are laying people off because they have to do that, contract values are going to decline. And this is just a given, unfortunately, for everybody right now. And for that very reason, it's a really bad time to be losing customers outright. So yeah, retaining the customers that you have, as you were saying, looking for new customers through referrals or other marketing efforts. Don't let lead generation and marketing just fall completely by the wayside because you're in kind of a defensive crouch right now. The other thing you were talking about is this particular business you were speaking with in Hawaii admitted that maybe they hadn't been so great about communication. And we've been, writing a lot of profiles of partners, channel pros, and how they're kind of dealing with the coronavirus crisis right now. And one of the best practices that's been, has emerged as a very consistent factor across these stories is all these companies say you need to over communicate right now. You almost can't communicate too much. So you need to be in really, really close, regular contact with your customers, and don't worry about bombarding them with more contact maybe than they want. The people we're talking to say their customers thank them regularly for reaching out, staying in touch, checking on their needs, et cetera. So I think it's a really important time to maybe dial up the amount of communication with your clients beyond what you normally do.
Absolutely. And that was actually one of the tips that we spoke about on a previous show where I had that whole 10 tips. We picked a few of them out of there, but yes, this is the time to, show the love, spread the love, love on all your clients as much as possible, until they tap out, just let them know you're there, check in on them, at least weekly, if not more often, and just, be that go-to. And, I'll add one last bonus tip. Okay, Rich, we got 30 more seconds here. So I'm working with a few of my clients over the last couple of weeks on calls, have developed different strategies for those customers that do ask for some relief. Some of them stand their ground and say, well, listen, these are licenses that we're paying for and things like that. They're really, and they're able to position away some of that. Some of the clients, some of the MSPs that I'm working with, they'll take a different approach and say, hey, you know what? We're in this together. We understand you need relief. Now, while we cannot forgive, your entire billing, here's what we can do. We will reduce our billing to maybe 40% or so of what we're billing you now, but you'll make us whole after this is over. So they come up with an agreement that says, look, in 6 months, then we'll begin clawing back some of that through, your invoices for the next 3 or 4 months will become slightly larger so that we can become whole on that. So they're negotiating these types of things in good faith so that, everybody gets what they need.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And probably a topic we should come back to at some point in a future episode, because everybody is dealing with that situation right now. There are a lot of different approaches to it, but the model you're talking about there is very similar to what a lot of vendors and distributors are doing, where they're offering their partners deferred payment kinds of options that allow them to continue to do business now and just sort of push some of that spending down the road a little bit. And I guess the larger, moral of the story as far as that goes is really just to encourage your customers who are not able to pay to just bring that to the table and negotiate with you, as opposed to just calling you up and saying, can't pay, not going to, let's work something out. Because quite often there is something that you can work out.
Yeah, I always say get in front of it and don't hope that no one's going to contact you. Some will. I have one partner that said only one client asked for relief. And I'm like, well, are you outreaching? Are you checking with everybody? Well, we're not doing that yet. I'm like, well, think about it, because, you don't want that, 3 calls the same week. That'd be a bad week, right?
Absolutely. Well, we have got time for just one more story this week, and sort of an interesting story in its own right, but it also somehow encapsulates to me exactly what we're all feeling right now. This concerns a long-distance runner in Russia. His name is Dmitry Yakuni. He spent 9 months training for an endurance run. The run was canceled due to the coronavirus, but he was absolutely determined to run the race anyway, and so he did in his apartment. 62 miles in 10 hours, running in circles around his bed, which feels like every day of my existence right now. Running 62 miles a day in circles around my bed inside my home. I'm living this guy's experience right here. I will also say I'm recording this episode from my home office, which is in a apartment building, a condo in downtown Seattle. I'm sort of imagining my upstairs neighbor running a 62-mile race. It would not be popular with me, but thankfully that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, the hamster wheel of existence we all experience today. That is a pretty incredible story. And I wonder how it got out. How did that leak? Somebody just like for 10 hours, like, what are you doing, Dimitri?
Exactly.
Knocking on the ceiling with the broom. And he's like, I'm running my marathon.
He completed the race, so congratulations. The training was not for nothing. Well, that is all the time we have this week for the show. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. If you like the program, you'd like to maybe see some episodes you missed in the past, keep up with new episodes if they become available, what you want to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe there. There's a little bell icon you're going to see. Click the little bell icon if you want to get notifications when the new episodes go up. You want to read more about this new solution from ID Agent and get all sorts of great business growth strategies for your company, please visit channelpronetwork.com on a daily basis. We have got great new stuff for you going up there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, please go to ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. That's the time we've got this week. We will be back again next week with another episode. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.